Well, hi folks, and welcome into this edition of This Week in Pearl. I am your host, Frank Hutton, and today we're going to have an exceptionally good show for you. We're going to talk to our Public Works Director, Shane Burrell. Shane's going to come in and tell us a little bit about what happened in 2024 in his department, and it's a lot of stuff. We could talk for hours, I'm sure, but he's going to give us some highlights as to what happened in 2024 in his department and what to look forward to in 2025. So y'all don't go anywhere. When we come right back, we're going to be with Shane Burrell.
Hello, I'm Mayor Wyndham, and I'm thrilled to show you the city creating its own future. Pearl is located in Rankin County, the fastest growing county in Mississippi, and there's no question why. Access to great schools, even better shopping, and unbridled beauty make Pearl a town that truly embodies its name. And with a truly exceptional team of first responders, public safety is another key component of our success. With fantastic housing opportunities from quaint suburban neighborhoods to gorgeous lakefront properties, there's a place for you here in Pearl. You can't beat the location. Right outside of Pearl is the crossroads of the South, where Interstate 20 meets Interstate 55. From here you can travel anywhere within the state or the country. Or you can choose to stay right here in Pearl to enjoy a Mississippi Braves baseball game or experience the small town atmosphere, community pride, and heart of the local residents.
Welcome back to This Week in Pearl. I'm your host, Frank Hutton, and I have the pleasure of being joined by our Public Works Director, Shane Burrell. Shane, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Frank.
So glad to have you. How long have you been Public Works Director for the city now?
July 2019. When I came here.
So for a minute.
Yeah, a few years now. yeah, been a couple of years.
It's been a couple of years.
Yeah.
You've been around for a minute. I mean, Jake came in, and then you were just literally just right behind him about a year later, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And it's fantastic. Glad to have you. So you got a lot going on in your department.
Yeah, that never changes from day to day.
It doesn't. As far as the department goes, in case people watching at home and don't know, the Public Works Department is the largest department we have in the city.
Yeah.
Some people would think it would be fire or maybe police, but it's not.
That's right.
It's Public Works. You are the largest department.
Yes, sir.
You're responsible for so much. You have the largest budget in the city. I mean, because you cover water, sewer, solid waste, streets, drainage.
Yeah.
All of that is your department.
Vegetation.
Yeah. That's right. Vegetation, the urban forestry, wells. Yeah. It's so much that people just don't realize that Public Works, and Shane, my friend Shane here, is responsible for all of that. So how is the Public Works Department?
It's as a whole, it's great. You know, we have a fantastic group of men and women here that run Public Works, and we've got some folks that's been here a long time, Frank. I mean, men and women that graduated high school with me went to work here straight after high school and are still here and very loyal employees. So as a whole, Public Works is fantastic. Great place to work, good people, and they get a lot done, very productive. And some of the hardest working, we had a conversation walking in here earlier with one of our other colleagues here, and she was just talking about how good the guys are in the street department, just stand up. So as a whole, it's been fantastic, and it's been my pleasure to work with them. They make my job easy. And you say all the stuff we got going on, we do, but they bust their butts and bend over backwards and make my job easy. So it's been really good.
They're the guys doing the work.
That's right.
So you've had a lot of work going on in 2024, and I just kind of we're going to highlight some of that here for you guys today. You've had a lot going on.
Yes, sir.
I mean, a lot going on, and you've really tried to revamp a lot going into the city. You've had, I know in the past years, I'm going somewhere with this, in the past years, you've had companies come in that have put cameras in pipes.
Yes, sir.
You've done smoke testing.
That's right.
You know, you're trying to find the leaks in the sewer system and the leaks in the water system.
That's right.
But in doing some of that, one of the projects that you did was the Grandview Sewer Project, and we've talked a little bit about it on the show. But explain to people what that Grandview Sewer Project actually did and how it completed.
Well, if you back up and go to the camera and all that, you're talking about, well, we did that and we smoke tested whether it was main infrastructure within neighborhoods in the city or up and down Highway 80, or even the interceptors like the Grandview and the North Beardman. Well, what we found is obviously we've got a lot of old lines. You know, Pearl, it's not that old of a city, but it still is 73, I think.
Sure.
So since the 70s.
50 years.
And then we've had
Right.
some of the infrastructure was put in the 50s and all that we inherited from other municipality, the county, and I think Jackson Water's what you called it. So we got a lot of old infrastructure. So that was the thing, was sat down with the mayor and the alderman, and we wanted to basically see what we need to do to replace and what was the worst. So that's kind of the way we went about it, and we'll talk about some other projects, and that's really the way we did. Where the worst work orders were at, where the more redundancy, and then same thing with the interceptors, which ones were the worst. Well, the Grandview was one of the worst, which is on the south side of the city, if the folks do not know what we're talking about there. So you kind of got the old Grandview subdivision. If you go south on Pearson, go under 20, when you get to the top of the hill past them, that's what you call the Grandview area on the right there. Well, that whole area, everything that comes from the east side of the city serving west, which feeds off of us into the West Rankin Sewer Authority, well, that line was in horrible shape down through there. It had, sections with roots and tree roots growing through it, holes just missing in the pipe. So everything that was trying to feed out of that side of the city would basically get lodged up and backed up, and would start causing backups in neighborhoods and, in buildings and different things. So that was the main thing. Let's fix that, because it was in pretty bad shape. And then we taken the other project, we'll talk about it in a minute, is basically fix the interior infrastructure that leads to that interceptor. But if the big main interceptor that catches everything can't flow, nothing can flow. So we got that one knocked out, and that project started and completed this year. Hempfield Construction done it and done a fantastic job for us. So
Yeah, that interceptor I think is on 49. The intersection of 49 and 20.
that's right. That's where it
People
feeds
don't really
out.
know where it is.
That's right.
And-
That's where it ends, and it starts east, running due west, and cuts up the railroad track basically.
And that was a major, several $1 million project.
Multi-million-dollar project, yes, sir.
Right. That
So-
I think was funded with some kind of.
That one was funded with a match grant, yes, sir.
Match grant,
And
that's right.
Then, of course, you're talking about funding. We've got some projects coming up that will be the same thing, that will be funded with a lot of the ARPA funds. So we've got a lot of good things happening as far as infrastructure for the city
Right.
now and in the future.
That Grandview, that's the main line.
Right.
From east to west. Without that main line, as you said, it starts backing up. Well, by investing in this infrastructure, a lot of this Riverwind area and the commercial businesses, we'll be able to add them on to the sewer system without any issues, right? There's no problems there.
That's right.
It helps with growing
That's
our
right.
economy.
Well, those neighborhoods are already on that sewer, so it just
Right.
helps that flow go even better. And if anything that is developed in the area that can tie to that makes the flow so much better. And we didn't just go back in and put in the same size pipes everywhere. We readjusted and enlarged it for future development. And the same thing, we've got another interceptor called the North Bearderman that's on the other side of 80 that handles everything on that side. So it's the same thing, and everything ultimately meets down here on the Pearl-Richland line.
Right.
So that's where everything runs. Flowwoods feeds this way. Everything comes through here. So we've that's like you said. The Pearl don't plan on slowing down. So we need to make sure we're taking care of what's here now and some of the old problems, but also be planning for the future and future development, whether it be residential or commercial.
Yeah, and these are the things that people don't see.
That's right.
So when you start, well, why can't you put a business here? Why can't you build something? This kind of goes back to what the mayor was talking about several months ago when he was on this show, about how Jackson was kind of controlling whether or not we could issue a business permit, because joining it to the sewer system.
Or development.
Coming in. And
That's
so
right.
by us doing this Grandview and the North Bearderman, that really allows us to grow, right?
Yeah, but if you back up the whole deal with the West Rankin Utility Authority and building the whole new plant, that is the biggest thing of that, because now as Rankin County, we control our own destiny.
Right.
So we've got that sitting there. We're not dependent on another city or anything else. We've got that, and that can grow. We can grow. That can grow. So, it's all intertwined now. We're not dependent upon another city and not having to pay them. And in the future, truthfully, within the next 10 years, it saves our citizens of Pearl, and ultimately the citizens of Rankin County a running ton of money for what it would have cost them in the future. Plus, it's not got handcuffs on our development, so we can continue to grow as a city and as a county as a whole. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does,
Ramble.
and tying that economic piece in, one of the things that you guys worked on getting the ARPA funds for was the Airport Road Sewer Project.
That's right.
So let's jump to that. Tell everybody what that was and how that's going.
Well, if Miss Kathy Bourgeois was sitting in here, which she's our project manager on a lot of these sewer projects, she knows the ins and outs of them. to the T. But that, that area has not ever had sewer down
Right.
through there. And that's another thing, as we come into this, we're trying to look at areas that's beneficial to the city in multiple ways of putting sewer there, and beneficial to our commercial partners and our residential partners. And that was a big push. And so that project got completed. And in the works, there's other projects of trying to get sewer branched off in areas down the old Whitfield area and all that have not ever had sewer either. So that was a big deal, and Kathy done a really good job on that one with pushing it and getting all the paperwork done and getting, that was another match deal, and that's not something that just falls out of the sky.
No.
Somebody's got to work on that and push and pull all the paperwork. So she done a fantastic job on it and the other phases of the project as well. So phase one with the main line basically running from, we're going to say I-20 south, is done. So everything now that'll branch off of that will be the next phases coming. So.
And how does that get around to West Rankin from there?
Well, your Grandview Interceptor and that main that runs the south side of the city runs right south of the railroad tracks.
Okay.
So that runs down through there and hits that main that's there, and that main runs through, but you have everything from what you call Greenfield out, the Greenfield Water Association out towards Live Oaks and all that comes back that way too and catches that interceptor.
I see. So a lot of that now is new infrastructure.
Yes,
The
sir.
main lines.
It's been upgraded.
The main
yes.
lines have been
That's
upgraded.
Right.
And so now which leads me into the Whitfield Road project, which is a new project
Yeah.
that you're working on, trying to secure the funding for.
That's
and all.
right.
That's more geared towards getting into residential.
That's
right?
correct. That's correct. Like I said, that whether it be residential or commercial in that area has never had sewer. So, and there's other parts of the city that are the same way. And then as we go, we're branching out and trying to make that happen anywhere that's possible that we can make it. And what looks, a lot of times when we're doing funding and all, they pick out spots as well that say, okay, well, this area does this and that or needs this and that. So it's going to be a bunch of long-term projects, but the plan is to make it a whole lot better for everybody. And like I said, I know that everybody's super excited down there, and it'll also bring in new residential and commercial development in those areas. And there's a lot of rural land down there.
There's a lot of rural land.
Yes,
There's a lot of rooftops going in down there too.
That's correct. You got a lot of new, but you got a lot of rural area that could be developed as well. So
For more residential.
for more residential, and there's some commercial areas down there as well. So, but
Now, just sitting here, you and I talking about this, is sewer more difficult to put in than water? Is it the return back to the system, or is it just, I don't really know. Is sewer more difficult, or is it about the same?
it's more difficult, and everything, especially with gravity sewer. Number one, sometimes you may be working deep. We'll be in 18, 20, 22 foot deep trenches.
Wow.
Well, and then when you fall in with all the rules and regulations, you can't just go dig a hole. You got to stack trench boxes. Well, you
Right.
can't. Some areas you can lay it back if you're in an open field. So, as a whole, yes, sewer is a lot deeper because the elevation dictates everything. So obviously, it's a lot lower here
Right.
than it is on the high side.
Right.
So, and everything's got to be gravity fed.
Yeah.
Water's pressurized.
Right.
And water don't have to be that deep. So
You just get under the frost line.
that's right. Realistically, we try to keep it 36 inches deep, and on your mains and all. So yeah, sewer is definitely
Definitely
a
harder,
lot
more
harder.
expensive.
More expensive, no
Yeah.
doubt. No
Which
doubt.
makes a lot of sense as to,
Oh, yeah.
just curious on that. All right, so you started phase one of a new SRLF project. Now, I don't know what the SRLF stands for, but tell everybody about that water project.
Well, that was the mayor and I and the water superintendent sat down a few years back and pulled all the work orders and basically said, which areas highlighted, because, as a whole, we get probably 100, 120 work orders a day. And that's not just for water or sewer, that's across the board for public works. So what we said was, what areas are the most redundant leaks? Where are we getting called the most? And we broke them down into different areas. Well, the worst one was over here off the old Brandon Road, the Chotard area and all, right there, the Reynolds Street and all that in there. Well, that was really the hardest hit area, really Chotard and back south and a little bit west. So that was what we called phase one. We've got 4 phases worked out in this first line of projects, but obviously we didn't want to go tear up half the city.
Sure.
So we start with phase one, which is over there. Well, that started and completed, and basically what the deal was with it, we done mains, whether it be a 4, 6, or an 8, and most of them we upsized if it had smaller ones. That way the fire protection was better and all. We went in and replaced fire hydrants. Several areas which throughout the city were doing it, but obviously in the areas that we're doing it. We're putting our map together. We're putting eye hydrants in there where we've got a hydrant that as soon as pressure drops, it'll send a signal to our phones, us in the water department, so we know if we got any loss there. So that ties the whole city together. But water mains, fire hydrants, and service lines. So basically the line that leads the main and comes to your meter, that's brand new as well. So, and that's what every phase of that project, everywhere we go, that's what we're going to do. So basically we're taking the hardest hit areas and we'll just work our way down to the least hit areas. So your 3 hardest hit ones, just to give you an idea, and we're fixing to roll right into the second phase. But the Chotard area was number 1. Over here in Cunningham Heights area, that's number 2. And number 3 is the King Heights area over here behind Kroger and all that. So that'd be phase 1, 2, and 3, what I just said, and we'll just continue on down the road as time goes.
Was that Hempfield Construction doing that as well?
Hempfield Construction done that as well, which, you know, those are all bid projects, and Hempfield's been a good partner with the city, and they won both of those bids on the 2 projects that we talked about, and have done a fantastic job. Have no complaints with them. Have been very good to work with.
You know, the guys over in Chotard here, because I live over here,
right?
You know, and you'd see the big, you know, boring rigs because they're boring that pipe through there.
That's right.
Tearing everybody's yards up, they're only tearing up little spots.
Well, that was you know, we were trying to, especially driveways and all.
Right.
You know, we're trying to be it's never pretty when you're laying new lines, but we were trying to be as clean as possible and not destroy people's yards and property. I mean, obviously we'd come back and fix it and redress it up, but you know, if we could, the least amount of damage, the better. And that way our citizens, you know, they're not inconvenienced no more than they have to be.
Right.
So.
Right, and I know that's a big deal. Let's talk about a little bit more that's kind of going along on that project this year that you're wrapping up, is the new meter project.
Yep.
That's been huge for you guys.
It has.
You mentioned it about the eye hydrant. And for folks that don't understand, eye hydrant is what he was talking about. It is connected to the cloud.
That's right.
So it allows them to monitor pressures and et cetera. Now the meters at the home kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah, well, and it's a pretty cool deal if you back up just a hair. You know, when we set 19, when we come in and the mayor and I and the board started sitting down looking at all these projects and what needed to be done, well, we still had some meters that were 1950 model and 40 model meters.
Yeah, right.
And then obviously 60s, 70s, 80s, and then they had done a push at some point in the city and changed a fair amount of the meters to a RFD, a radio read, where, you know, the guys can drive by and read them. Well, so we still had multiple trucks reading meters, and it would literally take 2+ weeks to get the meter readings, even with the few radio reads that we had. So it would take just call it 3 weeks. So then the ladies had 1 week in the office to get the books together and get the billing out. And I said, well, we need new meters anyway. So we sat down and come up with this. So basically we have, you know, it's a smart head just like the radio read, except it transmits it like a cell phone, so it constantly sends readings back to back to back. It don't get one reading a month. So you can keep up with it, but it comes to the office. Well, what it does in the end is it cuts a lot of field work out, and the accuracy is top notch on it. And if there is a problem, a man can go look at 1 or 2 or 3 meters instead of thousands of meters. Second deal is for the citizens. It really makes you know, I'm not a tech savvy guy, but I know Frank is here. So Frank probably already has his set up on his phone.
Well, I was just pulling it up because I was going to show people you can actually get.
That's right.
It's called I Own Water.
That's right.
I Own Water. It's an app, and you can. Here's mine, right here, and you can actually get your water usage.
And you can see what it's doing. And the cool thing about that is if you're out of town, if you're on vacation, and you can set it for alerts. You know, we use X amount of cubic feet of water a day normally. Well, it'll alert you, and if it's using a ton, you can say, okay, or a little bit, maybe my toilet's stuck. Well, if it's just roaring, you know you got to leave. You can pick up the phone, call your neighbor, your son, your daughter, your son-in-law, and say, hey, will you run over and cut the meter off? Or call the city. Our guys will be more than welcome to help, and until we get back in town and can address the situation. So that's really the biggest thing, because a lot of folks, if you have a leak, you know, that's a very expensive deal when the bill comes in. So, it helps us in the city, and the citizens can also see it.
It breaks it down. Like I said, for those that don't see it breaks it down. It tells me right here that, you know, my water usage this week is higher than my water usage last week. But not by much. But it does show you, and then it gives you like a graph at the bottom which is telling you basically your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then it has the yeah, there you go, and then it has all the different information here showing everything happening with that meter. So this is a benefit for the citizens that maybe people don't realize is available.
That's right.
A lot going on there with that.
Yeah, it is. So that as a whole, number one, it updates, it gets 60, 70-year-old technology out of the ground.
Right.
And it helps the office out tremendously. And it's a benefit to our citizens as well. Because a lot of times, there's a big span in every 30 days when you get a bill. If you got a leak that's underground or under your house and you don't see it, and you don't, especially some of the elderly folks that,
right,
they may not be out and about and working all around the house and the yard. So I think it's a big benefit for that, and it also alerts us as well if we have meter number so and so is running way more than it did last week. Like, it'll notify us too, so we can reach out to the citizens and say, hey, you've got a potential leak here. So
right.
But that project, I'm gonna call it about 95% wrapped. Probably a little more than that. Right now we're finishing some of the big 6-inch, 4-inch, 6-inch commercial meters. And once we get done with them, those take a little longer than running out and changing a 3/4 residential. So once they're done, we'll be done with that, and it'll be 100% cloud-based and rocking and rolling.
Right,
So,
no more radio reads.
That's right.
People know. I remember, and you remember as well, growing up, they would have the tube.
Oh, yeah.
And they'd stick it because it would be full of water, and they'd stick the tube in there so
look.
they could read the actual.
Oh, yeah.
Read the actual. I remember. I remember that well.
as changing these meters out, we had some meters that were so old in some areas that they don't even make a meter tool for them anymore.
No kidding.
The head is totally different than the guys, and you got Bird has been in the water department for 34 years, and he's never seen some of these meters with that with that head on it.
That head on it.
So it was pretty crazy.
Wow. All right. So a lot of water projects you
Yeah.
had going on, but you've also got some draining. Now you talk about vegetation. We mentioned that earlier. You guys are responsible for ditches and
Yeah.
water flow, storm runoff.
That's right.
Storm runoff. One of the major projects you did this year was that Highway 80 from Roses to
AutoZone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
Well, that was one of them things that, I grew up here, Frank. We've been here for, that area is always backed up, flooded the Walmart parking lot, and then obviously pushed upstream from there. The Roses parking lot, excuse me. That thing has been underwater, golly. As long as it's been there, I think.
Originally a pond.
Well, I know it was swamp area. I'm not that old, Frank.
Right.
I
just heard that was.
It was all swampy areas, and everything down this end of 80 is low. Well, that thing, like I said, as long as I can remember, so we sat down, me and the mayor and I, and a group of engineers trying to come up with, because you have a lot of infrastructure that's already there that we had to work around. You've got a ton of power lines. You got gas lines down through there. You got water mains down through there. But one of the biggest things is the power. So we had to do it a certain way, and was limited in some ways of what we could do as far as size and all because of that. So we sat down and felt like the plan that we all come up with and what we done was the best plan for it. So we put that in, and like I said, it come from literally the Roses parking lot there. AutoZone has already had a bridge over it, so obviously we just tied into right there and freshened the riprap up, reshaped the ditch, and done all the double box culverts down through there. Well, we've had a handful. Obviously right now it hadn't rained in a month, it feels like, but we've had a handful since that project was finished, a handful of good 3, 4, and 5-inch rains. And truthfully, it has not tested those structures at all. So we feel very confident that helped out tremendously. Because typically in a good quick 3-inch rain, Roses would go underwater. Wouldn't stay underwater for long, but the parking lot would go underwater.
And it could get really deep.
Yes, it could. And then then we're having to combat people from driving through it. And we were all teenagers once. I'd like to go through it in my 4-wheel drive wide open.
Sure. Well, all the storm water coming from Patton,
that's right,
Marianne, Chotard, all
Center City area.
That's right. Is all coming down that way to Roses.
That's exactly right.
And then it has to hit that main ditch.
Yep.
And I know back years ago when, and we're talking way back years ago, when MDOT redid Highway 80 through there, they elevated Highway 80. So it really created this dam.
Pushed it off even more.
Yeah, pushed it off even more. So it made it. But now the water has to run down this ditch, And it has to go under 80 at
80.
some point.
which you have a massive drainage structure there, and that's what we took into consideration when we were looking at it. You know, when they put that in, and you know, it actually, if you went down there and looked at it, it dropped 4 feet in elevation from what the ditch was. It had a header wall there, and you can drive some F-250s through that thing. It was, you know, it was
That's
big.
big.
And then downstream carries a lot of water. So that's when we sat there, we said, well, we can make a lot more water flow from here to here. And a lot of the problem going down through there, if you ever stopped and just paid attention to it, each driveway had 4 culverts in it. So it was like from start here to go here, it was like 7 retention ponds down through there. And if you rode down it in a heavy rain, you'd notice the water was, you know, it just, the elevation changed as it went because it was steadily, and then eventually it would all be backed up. But it was restrictive. So now it's not restrictive. It flows, and you know, it does a fantastic job. You know, so the fact that we've had that flooding for 50, 60 years now, and just backing up, and we've had the same amount of rains that would normally, you know, make it pretty bad, and we've not tested it at all. You know, I think it's an accomplishment.
We had one
So,
not too long ago,
yeah.
about a month or so ago.
Well,
Or
a few months ago, had
ago.
one right at 5 inches
Yeah.
in a short amount of time.
In a short amount of
That's
time,
right.
and we did not have near the issues.
No, not at all.
No, not
So,
at all. With that retention pond on the other side of 20.
Yep, that's been
has-
helping
has
tremendously.
helped. I know you cleaned out the ditch that goes, actually, people may not realize this, but Pearson's actually sitting on top of a stormwater.
That's right.
People
Yeah.
may not know that. It kind of comes off of Lloyd,
Yeah.
Oak Park, that
goes-
y'all cleaned out not last year, but the year before.
Well, and this past summer, we cleaned out the culvert under the road again because silt just travels from all downhill. But yeah,
Sure.
there is a major box culvert that goes at an angle, at a 45-degree angle under Pearson Road that most people do not know exists there, but that's what bleeds out everything in the Oak Park area.
Yeah, right.
So, and
So there's just a lot of that stormwater that you're having to manage that you guys have
That's right.
managed to correct.
well, you know, we grew up here in Pearl, and I rode dirt bikes and bicycles all over every stitch of woods that I wouldn't get in trouble doing. And I told the mayor one day, I said, I did not realize there was this many ditches in the city of Pearl.
Yeah.
And there is literally ditches everywhere, and to feed off the water. So, you know, that's a problem in itself, you know, trying to combat that. And, you know, and we've reshaped and redone a lot of ditches in subdivisions and interior ditches. And, you know, if you live over here, you don't know what's happening over here. But and that's the same thing back with future plans. We just, you know, keep picking at it a little bit at a time, and ultimately would love to have everything redone. By the time that's done, it'll be time to start over, redoing again.
Yeah, I was figuring to say, by the time you finally
never
get done, it
stops.
never stops.
No,
You
it
got to
don't.
go back and
That's
readdress
right.
it at some other point. Wow, drainage, big
Yeah.
deal. All right, so something that everybody sees all the time, paving.
Yeah,
Paving. You've been on a 7-year paving project,
we have.
and tell us how that's going.
Well, it's really been 5 years, I
Or
think.
5 year
right?
paving. Yeah, 5 year
So
paving.
19.
Right, 5-year paving project.
Well, you know, once again, sat down with the mayor and the alderman, and kind of put a thing together, and we've paved literally in 5 years. We've done a big push this year. We paved right at 120 miles total. We don't have that many more miles to go, probably another couple seasons of paving, and we'll have what the city of Pearl is responsible for on our roads, which is our main interior roads. You know, you take Highway 80, we can't touch that. Pearson,
Right.
that's another named highway.
Right.
Airport, you
right.
know, that's 475.
Right.
You got Highway 468, you got Highway 80. All these I can't touch.
Right, right.
So, but Old Brandon Road, those thoroughfares we can touch, and of course everything inside the neighborhoods. And also, you know, a couple more seasons, we'll have pretty much every road in the city that the city's responsible for, we'll have fresh asphalt on it. Well, then it goes back to what we talked about. By the time we get to that point, what we started the first year in 19,
Let's start over.
it'll be time to go back and start piddling with that again. But yeah, and the mayor and the board of aldermen have done a really good job of sitting down and looking at all of every aspect that we've got on infrastructure. And when we say infrastructure, we're talking about everything you listed at the first of this. It's not just streets, or it's not just water. You know, it's wells, water, sewer, streets, even the ditches. You know, that's infrastructure,
That's infrastructure.
whether it's got a culvert in it or not.
Sure.
And you know, so we're trying to address it. And you know, as it's an aging city, and there's a lot to do in it, and the cost of doing business this day and time is a whole lot more than it used to be. That's right. So
Skyrocketing.
we've got to do what's best for the citizens and their money, and we feel like we've done a good job with that.
Well,
And
120 miles. in 5 years is a lot.
Yeah, and you don't think that there's that many miles of streets in the city.
There's what? How many that you're responsible for?
I don't remember the exact number, so don't hold me to this, but it's somewhere around 140, upper 130s, 140. I believe that the city of Pearl actually
So you've got 20
has.
miles left
Pretty much.
that and then you'll have paved every road that the city owns.
That's right. So that, and obviously with these developments that we've got several developments that the city hadn't taken over yet, that'll just steadily increase. So, which is a good thing. That means we're growing, and we're putting rooftops in, so that's good for the city. But as of right now, it's somewhere around that number. Kathy could probably spit it off the top of her head. So,
all right. So what we got coming up in 2025? You mentioned earlier this SRF sewer project coming up in 2025. So what we got coming up there, and you mentioned another one too, that I-20 Upper Drive.
Yeah, well, we'll start with that one. That's a pretty big deal because, most of we've got great wells and good tank structure throughout the city, and we've got great water pressure. And we've got a very good infrastructure now. Well, if we're sitting down looking at it, if we were going to put something in place, where would that be? Well, looking at it and the way everything's laid out, that would be on the west side of the city. Obviously, we've had some residential developments come through in the last several years there, and commercial has picked up. And then obviously we've got the new road that'll continue on Pearson to Treetops. Well, that's just going to open up the door for more commercial development there. So we sat down and looked at some property, and the retention pond that you referred to that we built on south side of 20, and we'll call it Upper Drive there. Well, that was a 7.5, 8 acre retention basin basically. So where everything ran down to there, which is why it was a good place to build it, well, as it left, everything run up. Well, the landowner that we bought that piece of property from actually owned several more acres there, so it went uphill to one of the highest elevations on the western side of the city. So we purchased that property. Well, the plan is we're going to build a 2 million gallon tank and put another water well over there. So not only will we have another well, we've got multiple wells on the west side of the city, but we don't have a true storage tank sitting on the far west side of the city. So we'll have a 2 million gallon tank and another well there. So that'll be another 2 million gallons in the air sitting right on this side of the city. So we'll have wells and tanks strategically placed throughout the city.
So what well and what tank feeds that side right now?
Well, you have a ton of, basically we feed off our tanks. So your main big mule tank that pushes everything this side is Center City, the 2 million gallon tank. Well, we've got 2 tanks up there. And then you got Sweet Home Tank, it feeds that area too. And then, right off, if you go right south of there off Old Whitfield Road, we have another well there. We got a well off Gatewood. So if need be, we can fire the wells up and pressurize along with the tanks. But we try to not overrun our wells. We try to keep our tanks full and just let the tanks pressurize the city. And that's pretty much what we do.
But it's all connected anyway.
That's right. And you just made me think of something else. We talked about this, said it would happen. All right, this year alone, we took and we updated everything on the water tanks, on the water wells, and on the sewer lift stations. Everything is digital now.
Okay.
What I was getting at was we can see runtime now, because we really didn't know, everything was manual, just say 24 months ago. So our men would literally ride 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Not the whole crew, everybody would rotate. But you had to go check on things and make sure that your chlorine was doing this, make sure your pressures were here, make sure your tank was this level. Same thing with the lift stations. And a lot of times, if it was 15, 20 hours or even 12 hours, a lot of times in between, a lift station can go down. And unless somebody's eyes were on it, or unless we got a phone call said, hey, we got sewer backup or something over here, we didn't know it until we stumbled upon it. Well, now everything, and this was another 2024, we'll call it 2024 project, everything is 100% digital now. So all the well guys, the main well operators and the well techs and myself have it on our cell phone or their tablet. So through the night, if pressures change on anything, they get a warning. So they don't have to go ride around 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. They work a normal work day unless there's an issue in the middle of the night. So that right there lets you know, well, now we can monitor and see everything, so we know how many hours a day that it's most efficient to run the wells. So we rotate them through. So we literally don't try not to run the wells more than 2 to 4 hours a day, and keeps all our tanks full. And also it's a lot more efficient. It's it's saving the lifespan of our wells, because we really didn't know, because you couldn't see it. Well, now everything's digital, and that ties back to the same. All that's tied back to the iHydrant and everything. We're just trying to get all the infrastructure into the 21st century, because there's so much technology available out there that is really beneficial. So
Well,
anyway,
I know that
we jumped on another subject.
No,
I'm
no,
sorry,
but I
Frank.
know. Just me personally, when I got here, I felt like I was dragging this city into the, just the 20th century.
Oh, man.
Because but that infrastructure is older. Obviously, it costs so much more money.
That's right.
The water and sewer is not cheap.
No, it's not.
That's expensive.
And if you can, and the same thing, I know.
I mean, as a whole,
That's
everything
right.
from the parts itself to the guys that are having to put it in the ground.
That's it. Well, anything we can do to lengthen the time of use for that pipe or that pump or whatever in the ground or that well, those are big ticket items. And a lot of times, and we've noticed this, it's really happened on 4 occasions since we digitized all this. When you get something, you see something right then, a pressure change or what, the guys are heading out to get it fixed. Same thing, if chlorine, if our injectors or anything go out on the chlorine pump, well, all of a sudden the citizens are going to have smelly water. Well, if we know when that thing goes out, we can, I'm not going to say we're going to catch it perfect every time,
Right.
but we know it's happening and we can get to it and get it
You can
fixed.
dispatch somebody.
Yeah,
to
instead
get
of,
right.
4 to 5
Stumbling
hours
across
instead of 4 to 5 days.
Right.
So, and we have, now a ton of parts on standby and all, so everything's going good, but if I can save a well motor or if I can save a lift station motor because of that piece of technology, it makes a world of difference.
Yeah,
And we've saved.
You're trimming hours.
That's right, and we've saved 4 lift stations this year just by knowledge of knowing and being able to get there on time, and that's an astronomical amount of money for the citizens.
A lift station cost how much?
Just the motor itself, $15,000 to $20,000 just for the motor.
Just-
that's if nothing else happens or goes bad.
And that's down 20 feet.
Yeah, you got to winch it out.
Yeah,
so
somebody's got to go down there.
that gets a whole lot more expensive in the end. Yeah, but just
Yeah.
the motor itself is that, and so we've caught 4 this year that was able to save the motor. Where if you'd have come around on your 12-hour sweep, that motor would have been burned up. So, that's a big saving. That's 80,000 plus just in that, and we didn't even spend that upgrading everything to digital. Just a few sensors.
Yeah,
So,
right.
and
Yeah.
somebody smarter than me typing on the computer.
Type it on a
Yeah,
computer.
setting something up.
But that saves money.
That's right.
That saves time. It's very much efficient.
Well,
it
cuts a running ton of
Sure.
overtime out, and so you're cutting overtime out, you're cutting cost out on these guys, they hadn't. I'm not going to say they didn't have no life, but you think
that's where I was going. Right.
that gives their quality
Quality of life.
That's right, so much
Right.
better, because if you're working 7 days a week,
Sure, they're
all
getting
year.
paid for it.
That's
obviously,
right.
but that's not the point.
No.
I mean, they're having to constantly
yeah,
feel for them.
that's right. So, their quality of life is getting better. And the same thing with the on-call water crews with the SRF project. You got constantly water breaks, and literally you fix a line 2 foot down from there. You get a work order still in the same spot. Well, no, it's really 2 foot down. It looks like it's in the same spot.
line, right.
It's the same line. It's old. It's rusty. It's deteriorated. Well, you're not going to go in there and just start tearing up each person's front yard and replacing their section, then wait for another week or two. So it made a whole lot more sense to come in here and do this. But what I was getting at with that was, them guys are on call. We rotate every 2 weeks. They're on call 7/24, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Well, a lot of them guys work 70, 80, 90 hours a week. And just in this project, phase 1 being completed, I was talking to the water superintendent the other day, and he said that overtime has slacked off tremendously just to that one area, because, as I said, it was the worst area. So you could literally take the other 2 areas and add them together, and that's what it come up to the calls in that area. So it's working, it's helping, and that gives our employees a better quality of life, and it gives our citizens a better quality of life as well. So they're not constantly frustrated because they're having either water or sewer issues. So that's the major plan, but it don't happen overnight.
No, it doesn't.
And and I'm just thankful that we have an administration that the mayor is constantly pushing, and the aldermen have got on board with everything on this piece of paper that we've been talking about, and are really pushing forward with it. And that's been a blessing to have that, for both the employees and the citizens, and improving the infrastructure of the city.
Well, you were talking about the guys and the quality of life. I know something that people may not think about a lot. It's one of the things that you did when you came in is you started changing the equipment.
Yeah.
I mean, every single water crew now has their own trailer with their own Mini X.
That's right.
And these are not old pieces of equipment. These are new, right? I mean,
that's right.
We're talking new trucks, new equipment. You can speak on that. Obviously, you can tell people what you've been doing.
When we got here, the equipment that the city had for everything that they deal with was inadequate. Didn't have enough equipment.
Right.
So obviously you wasn't going to streamline a timeline by anything, and you wasn't going to be efficient. You had you had street department and water department flip-flopping equipment, and that's fine in a small little city. Well, so anyway, yes, so it's a lot more efficient now. So every water crew, every repair crew has a truck, a trailer, and a Mini X sitting on it, fuel tank in the truck, all the tools they need. They're self-sufficient. Yes, and so they go out and they can do a job, and if they need parts or whatever that's not on the truck, instead of the whole crew loading the mini hoe back up or leaving it there and dragging a trailer to the parts house, we have a parts runner that's running constantly. So the equipment makes their day and their job that much more efficient. And the cool thing about it is, number one, we're rotating out, trying to be efficient and use the citizens' money on this stuff as if you were running. If it was your own money, that's what you're looking at. You trying to do it in the most sane way. So, we're rotating out as needed while the equipment still has equity in it, instead of running it 15, 20 years and then spending more money every year to repair it than it's worth. So, but what's really cool and crazy is the way that the administration, everybody sit down and everything's structured, is all this is happening on the same budget. So it's not like
it's not like we found a pot of money somewhere.
No, it's all on the same budget. It's just a different mindset and
different management philosophy.
That's right, and sitting down. So it's
well, your background lends itself, because you being a business owner, you started your own business. It's what you know.
That's right.
So you're taking the business model, and incorporating it into government.
And it's the same. It's money, and you want to be the most efficient you can with the amount of money you have. And we've sat down and, like I said, with the mayor and the board of aldermen and this administration, and we figured out a way to make it work. And everything is moving smooth down the line. And and the guys and that just raises the morale so much. And when they've got good equipment, they've got not having to fight over tools here and there.
Right.
Everybody can go to work and get their job done.
Right.
And it makes everything's so much more efficient. When we first come here, the amount of work orders that we were behind on. And I say that, I was looking through the data from 2017 when the administration that's in there now rolled in. They started clicking some off better than before. And so you actually helped me, because I'm not a computer guy. I look at all this data. But anyway,
right.
And then once we got way more efficient and streamlined, it is amazing how many more work orders. And that just makes your citizens happy, because and it makes my phone lines ring a lot less up there. But so realistically, I was looking last week, our water department right now had 21 open tickets on water leaks. And when I say that, that's for the whole city. And by the end of this week, they'll probably have that cut in half, and I've seen it down as low as 4 or 5. But this is what folks don't think about. They are also dealing with catastrophic stuff that happens every day. So what they set out this morning, and I know that Taylor would like to have that 21 work orders knocked out this week. And that 21 just keeps coming back, because, like I said, we still got a lot of old infrastructure, but we'll have a water main collapse or bust, and with this crazy weather we have in Mississippi, or we'll have a sewer line collapse. Well, last week alone, they were dealing with 4 backups at one time. It just, when it hits, it hits.
Sure.
But then they still maintain and get their work orders done and all. It's never a perfect world. If all they had to do was get up and go to them 21 work orders, they'd work Monday and Tuesday, wouldn't have nothing else to do the rest of the week.
Exactly.
But that's not the way it works. So.
Right. And I think people forget that the crews that are fixing the little water leaks also have to deal with the stuff that
with the emergencies.
With the emergencies,
That's right.
and those happen. And with progress, comes problems.
That's right.
And when you've got all these crews boring fiber all over the place and putting in new gas lines, I mean, not just fiber, but there's gas lines going in.
Well,
we're not the only ones doing infrastructure upgrades.
Well, everybody's improving.
Everybody's improving, so they hit water lines. That happens. But
well, and that's here lately. That's been a lot of our biggest problems. Is the boring contractors, or we got so much construction going on in here too. A contractor will hit a line, and it happens. I mean, that's part of it.
But the crew still has to stop what they're doing and go deal with it.
Well, I had a phone call from a friend of mine last week. I'm not going to say any names, but he had a sewer issue, and the guys were there. Well, he left and come back, and they were gone. But there was a couple holes that he called me. I said they got pulled off on an emergency. I said they'll be back. Well, he called me that evening. He said, man, these guys are awesome. He said they come back about 5 o'clock, worked till dark, finished all this stuff up and covered it back up. But they started that job mid-morning, then got pulled off, had to go fix a blown main, went and got it handled, and come back and finished him up.
Right. And they came to work at 6 that morning.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly
They came to work at 6 that morning, and it's 7, 8 o'clock at night before they finally go home.
And they're finishing up. But that's every day for them guys.
I know.
That's not once in a blue moon. That's normal days for them.
Right.
So and eventually, the plan would be they have something to do to keep them busy, but not working 70, 80, 90 hours a week. So, just fixing little leaks here and there.
Yeah.
I would love to have those 21 water leaks, those little bitty simple work orders. I'd love for that to be the only thing that they do.
That they had to deal with. That they had to deal with.
That's right.
But I know all those guys and had the opportunity to hang out with them some. But they do have good equipment.
They do.
I know those Mini X's. They have air conditioning.
That's
in
right.
them. They have radios in there. People, if it's storming, they can close the cab up and they can still work.
That's right.
And I remember not too long ago that would have not been the case.
No.
Not at all. They would have had an open cab. It would have been an older, patched together mini excavator that they would have to share with somebody.
Well, when I first sat down and overlooked the equipment deal on this, and I know we're getting off subject, we'll move on, but the city as a whole had too many hose for all
for the whole city.
Yeah,
for all the departments.
One of them was 14 years old, and one of them was 15 years old.
Right.
So, and not saying that age matters, but it does. But when first one I got on to dig something, you move over here, and the bucket does this for 15 seconds.
It's worn out.
And then you set it down to dig your hose.
Yeah, it's worn out.
But anyway.
It's time for a new one.
But the whole thing, like I said, and I can't say this enough, we've had, and the guys go back to the men and women in public works as a whole just bust their butt. And that makes it easier for the mayor and the aldermen to don't want to knock that off in your studio. That makes that easier for the mayor and the alderman to say, we can do this and that. But those guys, they go out there day in and day out, and every piece of equipment we bought has been used and put to use, and they bust their butt, and the productivity has gotten better and better and better.
Right.
I mean, you help me with all the iWorks, you can see that, and you know how many work orders we get, and so that makes it a lot easier for the alderman and the mayor to sit down and say, yes, this makes sense, we can do this.
Well, as you alluded to earlier, we're not doing anything we didn't find a pot of gold somewhere.
No.
We're still doing this on the same
That's
margin.
exactly right. We're just structuring and strategically doing things different. And and sit down and manage it in a different way. So, and that's what really, to me, is the coolest thing is that we were able to take with what we had and become what we are now. And and so like I said, as a whole with public works, everything is more efficient. Truthfully, the guys have better equipment, better trucks, and
the morale so much better.
And they're making more money.
Yeah.
They're making more money per hour than they ever have. And, so everything's up. And it's all kudos to them for doing a great job and being efficient. And then to the administration, because, like I said, the mayor and the aldermen have done a great job helping, streamline and get public works on track. So, anyway.
Well, it's the backbone of the city.
It is.
It really, people think that, you got to have safe streets.
No doubt.
You got to have low crime. You got to have a fire department. But you can't have any of that without the public works department.
That's right. Well,
Because the streets have to be maintained, the water has
Yeah.
to run. When you got a fire, the water has to run.
That's right.
When you've got an emergency, the police need to get there where the streets have to be done.
That's right.
So, I mean, nothing happens without the backbone of the city, and that's the public works department.
No, and you think about this, you know, the mayor and I have talked about this time and time, and I've never really looked at it like, you know, from his perspective when I first come in here, but, you know, he considers public works, the guys at public works, first responders. Because 9 times out of 10, you know, if it's a car wreck or something, it's a little different.
That's
but
different.
If we have a spill on the truck,
Yep.
if we have a storm
Major
come
storm,
through,
right.
those guys are right there with, you know, with fire and PD. And,
Yeah.
and you know,
Right.
when we had that big storm that come back through, I guess it was March. I think it was March, April, somewhere in there.
Right.
Took all the trees down on the
Yep.
west side of the city. Well, you know, it looked like an orchestra out there. You had PD, you had fire, and you had public works. We had machines everywhere, chainsaws everywhere. Everybody was just working in conjunction.
Right.
And I was in the middle of the night in the pouring down rain, and nobody batted an eye, nobody whined. Them boys worked all day and worked all night.
And all day the next
Took
day.
a break at Waffle House at 4 in the morning and went right back to work.
Right,
So,
right.
you know, it's
That's
good guys.
testament to.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Very good guys. Shane, I appreciate you coming in.
We probably missed some stuff because we went all
Well,
down
we could
some
talk. We
roads.
could.
That's right.
We could talk a
Yeah.
long time.
That's right.
But you did give us some good information.
Well, hopefully I
think
did.
the citizens have learned that there's a lot more that goes on in public works
It
than
is.
anybody realize. Now we try to highlight that a little bit. You know,
That's
on
right.
Facebook, we try to show people what's going on.
Yeah.
By showing, hey, we're putting in brand new water and sewer lines over here with this new subdivision going in.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's we try to highlight that. But we do appreciate you and what your guys do, and thank them very much. And thanks for sharing a little bit with us.
Well, yes, sir. Well, anytime, just holler at me. And I appreciate you. You take care of us. You keep all our computer stuff going.
Well, we try.
Oh, well, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Shane.
Good to see you as always.
Hey,
Frank.
we're
Thank
going to
you.
step aside just a second, and when we come back, we're going to highlight some stuff that's going on inside the city of Pearl this week, so don't go anywhere.
Hello, I'm Mayor Wyndham, and I'm thrilled to show you the city creating its own future. Pearl is located in Rankin County, the fastest growing county in Mississippi, and there's no question why. Access to great schools, even better shopping, and unbridled beauty make Pearl a town that truly embodies its name. And with a truly exceptional team of first responders, public safety is another key component of our success. With fantastic housing opportunities from quaint suburban neighborhoods to gorgeous lakefront properties, there's a place for you here in Pearl. You can't beat the location. Right outside of Pearl is the crossroads of the South, where Interstate 20 meets Interstate 55. From here you can travel anywhere within the state or the country. Or you can choose to stay right here in Pearl to enjoy a Mississippi Braves baseball game or experience the small town atmosphere, community pride, and heart of the local residents.
Welcome back, folks, into This Week in Pearl. I'm Frank Hutton, your host, and what a fantastic conversation that was with Shane. There is so much going on in the Public Works Department. I don't know how they manage to keep track of all of that, and it's between the water projects, the sewer projects, the roads, the streets, the solid waste, all the things that they do. It is so much. You have to just applaud those guys for the amount of work that they do. And we didn't even talk about special events. We just had Trick or Treat Street, and those guys are working in the street trying to get everything blocked off, get all the candy picked up, the wrappers, the trash. They do all of that too. So big shout out to those guys over at Public Works. And thank you, Shane, for coming in and sharing a little bit of information with us about that. All right, so what's going on this week in Pearl? Well, let's talk about Coach's Show. We film the Pearl Pirate Football Coach's Show every Monday night at Mugshots. And there's only a couple left as we're getting close to the end of the season, but we did want to highlight that you can come out to the Mugshots at Riverwind in Pearl, and we film at 6 o'clock. So guys are usually there by 5:30 or so. You can come hang out with the coach, and you can meet some of the kids and the players and talk to them directly, have some conversation. It's a great time. You should come by and enjoy yourself at Mugshots, feed the family, and hang out with the team there and see us record the Coach's Show. Wanted to also point out that Election Day is here. It's coming up. You've got, 8 days left by the time we're filming this. It's 8 days from filming. So depending on when you're watching it, it's November the 5th, Tuesday. It's coming up, so be sure and vote. Exercise that right to do that, and doesn't matter who you vote for, just vote. Okay, just go out and exercise your right. That is your voice right there on how you feel about things. So make sure you go vote. If you don't know where your voting precinct is, you can contact our clerk's office by dialing 932-2262, of course, area code 601-932-2262, and at the city clerk's office, and they can help you with your precinct on where to vote. Also want to highlight a little bit about what's going on Thanksgiving coming up in November. You've got Pearson Road Baptist Church. Pearson Road Baptist Church every year does a Thanksgiving for people who maybe not have family anymore, maybe by themselves, or just want to come hang out with a group. They do it on Thanksgiving from 11 to 1 in their Family Life Center there at Pearson Road Baptist Church. Everyone's welcome, so if you'd like to go by there, please do so on Thanksgiving. Main Street Pearl, just coming off of Trick or Treat Street, has a new event coming up, another Paint and Sip. It is a Christmas edition for Main Street. It's held there in the senior services. It is a 21 and older event. So you have to be at least 21 years and older because there is alcohol involved. You can bring whatever you like to drink and you get to paint. It's a wonderful thing. They had a great turnout last time they did this. Starts at 6 p.m. in the senior center. It's $30 a person. That includes everything you need. That's your paint supplies, your canvas. It's everything you need to do it. Just bring yourself, a friend, your spouse, and whatever you like to drink with you, and I promise you, you will have a fantastic time. For more information, you can email mainstreetpearl@cityofpearl.com. That's mainstreetpearl@cityofpearl.com. That's going to be held December the 5th. So that's coming up in about a month. So make sure you put that on your calendar if you would like to attend. mainstreetpearl@cityofpearl.com. Also coming up, December the 2nd is Pearl's Christmas Parade. And if you haven't gotten in your application to put your float in, do that now. You can go to the City of Pearl events page where you can actually get that form, sign up online, and get that sent in so that you can be a part of the Christmas Parade. It is a Whoville Christmas this year, so it's going to be a lot of fun with Cindy Lou Who and the Grinch. So you definitely want to be a part of that if you want to get something in. You will have to attend the float meeting, which is that's a mandatory meeting to understand how things work for the deal. But it is a nighttime parade, December the 2nd. It's free to sign up, free to attend. It's always a great time. There's always a lot going on right around that time of year. But for the parade, there's a lot going on here inside the Gold Room. I know that Santa Claus is always in there. There's always lots of fun and games for the kids to do. It's a lot of fun. So come be a part of that. And if you want to put that float in, be sure and go to the cityofpearl.com website and sign up. Hey guys, had a great time. Oh, want to pass one more thing. This will happen pretty soon, but Pearl's going to play Oak Grove on Friday night coming up November the 1st. Friday night, Oak Grove comes to town. So if you're watching this week, then be sure and join them Friday night. Thank you for joining us today. Again, thanks to Shane Burrell for coming in. I'm Frank Hutton, your host. Had a great time. Y'all have a fantastic week. We'll see you next time.